this is Michael Bosey. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Without the Marketing. Thanks for being here. And thank you for all the questions that you've posed. I really appreciate that, and it gives me ideas for new podcasts. And today, I'd like to focus on one particular question, which is, how can I make sure that people actually click on the link that I share on social media? You know, you spend a lot of time making posts, and you do this because you want to provide value to folks and you want them to get some value out of it by clicking on it, right? So how can you improve your click-through rate, or what we call it in marketing, which is CTR? Well, first of all, that social share, the thing that you're posting, that is content. It's not something different because it's only 140 characters. It's content. Right? So like anything in the content world, like I say all the time in this podcast, it needs to be good. And it needs to be a part of your overall content strategy. That content is saying something about you. And, you know, when you're sharing a post via social media, that content is kind of making a promise to your audience. It's saying, hey, look, I'm sharing this with you because I think it's valuable. I think you'll get something out of it. You know, trust me, click it, and you'll get something out of it. So guess what? I mean, it really is a promise, right? The thing that's behind the link, it better be valuable, right? And I'm a content guy, so of course I'm going to say that the content has to be good, and of course I'm going to say it has to come through on its promise. But the more that you do that, the more that you build up trust, the more that people will come to sort of rely on you and understand that, hey, you know, this person always posts really good content, really worth clicking through. Like that curation that goes into it, you know, makes a difference. Now, I could spend a lot of time on what makes a good social post, but you know, you probably have a sense of that already, right? You kind of know what works, what doesn't. But what I'd like to focus on today instead is the stuff that actually supports your social post, right? What else will people see? And I bust this into sort of three categories besides the post itself and the link that you're sharing. A post title, post meta, I'll get into that in a second, and your image that goes with the post. All right, let's start with images, because this is really, really important and really affects your click-through rate. The image that you pick, think about this. Is it attractive? Is it compelling? Does it give the right sense of what that content is going to be when you click on it? In other words, what promise does it make to the reader? And the big thing is it optimized so that when it goes into social posts, that it doesn't get cut off sort of in a weird way? You know, is it going to present itself in the different social channels in the way that it should? And you'll notice that a lot, that sometimes things that are optimized for Facebook don't look so great in Twitter. Something that's optimized for Instagram doesn't look so great in LinkedIn. I mean, this happens often. So the thing that you want to do, obviously, is, pick your primary channel. So if that happens to be Facebook, then that's great. Then optimize your images for that. If it's Twitter, do the same for that. You get the idea. Now, if you're producing your own images, so say, for instance, that are going to go along with a blog post and people are going to share those, think about this. In optimizing this, a big thing for SEO is to make sure that you name the file properly, right? So make the file name itself something descriptive so that, look, when the Google bots come to look at your content, all they can do is read it. They're not looking at the image per se. They're looking at the metadata around that. So make sure the file name is good. And of course, the other big thing is to make sure that you have your proper alt tags. So you have descriptors in there. A description is good, or another title would be fine, something that's maybe a little bit different from the blog post. And then some keywords in there. Not too many, but enough that sort of give the search bots some idea of what this image is. It can be a contextual description or some keywords, and that'd be fine. All right, now the post title. I wish I could credit this because it's really great. I don't know who said this, but they said, for instance, when you're writing a blog post, and the same thing would happen for social, I would think, is to spend as much time on the title as you do on the post itself. And for me, when I'm writing content, I always write, a half dozen titles, for instance, when I'm in draft form of a blog post. Same thing with a podcast. I want to sort of put them out there, come up with a few that I'm happy with, sit with it, come back to it a couple days later, and then pick one. And the cool thing is that when you do this, then you have all these other titles that would kind of work for other social posts as well. So it's not that it's going to go to waste. You may find it to be really descriptive, but you want to pick one title that really is compelling, is going to sort of invite the reader to click through because, hey, I got to find out what this is about. This that is just really compelling, and I want to know more. So that title, think about this, the way to optimize it so that people will click, make sure that, one, it uses the language of your customers and readers. You want to make sure that it's something that they understand, something they identify with. If it's done in a language that is not their own, they're not going to relate to it as much. So, I mean, that really speaks to knowing your readers, your customers, your users, so that you can actually use that language. The other thing is, promise to solve a real issue. If that's what you're trying to do, like I said before, this content has to make a promise. So if it's a known issue and you're offering a solution to it, and your title of the post makes a promise about that, well, then that's going to be really compelling, and they're going to want to find out more, right? And then lastly, I would say try if you can. Sometimes this is not always possible, but try if you can to make it durable so that, it'll still be relevant 12 months from now. Sometimes your content can take on more of a life than just, that week or that month. If you're developing your content that goes for blogs and or social posts, it may show up in search months later, and you don't want it to be time dependent if you can get away with that. I mean, obviously, sometimes a post is going to be time dependent. Sometimes that's a really key part of it. But if you can get away with it, try to make them a little bit more durable. All right, so let's also talk about the post metadata. This is sort of the description that goes with the post. You don't get a lot of space here. I think it's about 160 or 170 characters offhand. So it's one or two lines. And think of how this is going to function basically in social sharing. This is going to be the thing that shows up under the title. So there's your post title, there's the image, and now you kind of have this opportunity to sort of go for the close. This is the last thing that someone might see before they click. So you got to get right to the point. Tell me why I want to click this link. And it's also going to benefit you in Google search too, because this is the thing that, it shows up under the title when it appears in search. So think of the Google page with 10 items on it. You're going to get the post title. There's going to be this little description there right under it. Now remember, there's 10 other items on the page that might satisfy the user, so you got to make a really quick case for anyone why yours should be the one that they click. So these three things are really important, getting the image, the title, and the metadata descriptions to be optimized so that people want to click. But I'll also add a little extra word about content. I would say, this idea of content as a promise, I did an entire episode on this. I think this is really important because, look, you're trying to build trust. So don't succumb to these sort of cheap content ploys. We've all seen them, these sort of BuzzFeed type things, the listicles. I mean, they tend to perform pretty well, which is unfortunate because people then use it as a strategy or think it's a good strategy. But I think if you're trying to build trust in you and your business, not only do people see through these ploys, but if the content doesn't come through on what you've promised, I think you'll actually diminish your authority. You don't want to be seen as a shyster. You don't want, traditional advertising has made people not trust marketing. Everybody's always wondering, where's the catch here? And, that's too bad. Pop-up ads, these listicles, whitewashing, false promises, lies upon lies about product after product. You can do better than that because your goal in content marketing is to provide value to someone, to produce content they actually want, not the content that they're going to actively avoid. And when you do that, you have the power because you have the audience. If they want to be there, they don't just sit through it until it's over, right? They actually give you their attention and then share it with others if they like what they see or hear. And that's a payment of sorts. It's not as good as money, but look, it's leading towards money little by little. And none of that's going to happen without trust. So you got to try to be the person they trust. Good content, providing value to them, doing it with a genuine intent. All these things that I always say about a good content strategy. And that means that you've got to stop talking about yourself and start talking about those you serve. You do this to serve someone, whether it's to educate, inspire, entertain, whatever it is. Social works best when it's about them, not you. And when you see the way that a lot of folks use social, just that attitude, that mentality there is going to set you apart. All right, so I think I'll leave it there. Thank you so much. And while we're talking about click-through rate, I would love it if you would click through to iTunes, to the show page, and if you'd give me a rating or review. I mean, if you like this show, it really, really helps other folks find the show. So that'd be great. I'd really appreciate that. And of course, I'd only ask you that if you really have found this to be useful. All right, I think next week we'll start to get into a little bit more on social media marketing, maybe do a couple episodes on making real connections, and then criteria for channel selection. Some important topics. All right, again, thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.